All right, here we are. I'm so excited to welcome a beautiful human being inside and out as my guest today on the Fierce and Flowing podcast. So, let me talk to you a little bit about who Alex Davis is. So, Alex is a wealth strategist who empowers entrepreneurs and experienced professionals to build a life of freedom through financial transformation. And she does this through leveraging her own journey from single mom in debt to six-figure net worth. And what she really is all about is offering entrepreneurs a journey to financial liberation. And I love that word because my number one value is freedom, right? So, when I hear liberation and freedom, it's just so empowering. So, Alex, I'm so grateful to have you with me today. And if there's anything else that you would love to share about who you are with our audience today, before we jump into your fierce moment, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Monique. I'm honored to be here. I just adore you. You are a light to this world, and I just appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Um, yes. Hi, as Monique mentioned, I'm Alex. And the only thing I would add, I like to add this little fun fact. So I'm also a CPA, a certified public accountant, and a certified financial planner. And less than half a percent, you heard that right. 0.5% of those professionals are actually women who are Black. And I'm a Black woman. So to have that designation just really speaks volumes
Wow.
to the fierceness that is me.
I love it. I love how you are just like owning it and celebrating yourself and highlighting what a difficult path that is to make. I remember something I was so proud of long time ago was being the first person in my family to not only go to college but get my MBA. And these are we tell ourselves these are little things, but they're not. It's a new big boulder that we put on our path that allows not only ourselves, but our children and the generations after to really carve their way, right? And do
Yeah.
do things that we tell ourselves are difficult, and they are. So thank you for celebrating yourself. That's amazing.
Yes. No, thank you. But then, the other thing to that point is the fact that you were able to actually get past generational traumas or generational patterns. That's huge because how many generations before you,
Right.
like that wasn't a possibility or even a thought. And so to be able to make these accomplishments, I think it's important to celebrate for
Yes,
sure.
you're so right. Thank you so much. Awesome. So, Alex, the first question I ask all of my guests, which is really at the heart of this podcast, is sharing a fierce moment in your life. And I define fierce not as angry or someone who, walks through life wanting to beat others down, but really that energy that we tap into when we know that we're ready to stand in our power, do something difficult, no matter, who is affected by it. It's really about putting ourselves first because that's also, again, going to leave an imprint for others as well. So I'd love for you to share one of your fierce moments that you'd like to talk about today.
Yes, there are many. But today I really wanted to talk about when I decided to leave my career in public accounting. I had been in public accounting for a decade, but it was quite frankly draining my soul. I
Mm,
remember one year really going through it and I had lost like 25 pounds. My hair was shedding so bad. It looked like I had carpet in my apartment. It looked
wow.
like I owned a dog. I don't have pets. I had a child. And
Right.
so it was just I was so stressed, but I felt like, "Nope, this is all I know. This is great money. I have to keep going." And so I did. I kept going. I ended up getting a therapist and all that, and I was able to keep going. But in October of 2021, it was like, enough. And so my fierce moment was finally deciding to leave public accounting and transition into entrepreneurship full time.
Wow, amazing. And that's not an easy thing to do, right? I've been there myself, and it just so happens that the majority of individuals that I work with and coach are in that again, I'm going to use the word kind of fierce place where it's like I feel a calling. I am recognizing and stepping into awareness around what's not working well in my life that is really affecting, my mental state, my emotional state, causing me a lot of stress and overwhelm. And there's this quiet little voice that wants to get stronger
Yes.
and kind of feed me the courage and strength that I need to be able to step into a new beginning and leave behind everything we've worked on, that identity
Yes.
that we've worked so
Ooh,
hard
yes.
to
Yes.
create. I want to talk about that identity. So who was Alex back then? What was that identity that you had created that was difficult to kind of walk away from?
I think it was the identity of the CPA because it is
Mm,
this. I mean, I led with this rare statistic, and so I felt and not that anyone ever told me I was carrying the world on my back, but sometimes it feels that way when you're the
yeah.
only one. And I was the only one in my family with multiple degrees, this designation, making six figures. You know that coveted six
Yes.
figures. You're like, yes, I've arrived, and it was like, who are you to step away from that? Who were and there were no entrepreneurs in my family. So growing up, everyone told me, get a good job, get the good
Right.
benefits, and then you retire. And so it was like, but that's not enough for me. I want to enjoy life. Like, you just do. You have that, that piece is missing. So leaving behind the identity as a CPA, leaving behind the identity as a corporate employee, and then forging into no, I'm an entrepreneur, like, and
Right.
really stepping into that had it was difficult, especially for me, I had like my grandmother, who I love her. She's not on earth anymore, but
Mhm.
one of her thoughts was, she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that? I'm grateful that she did see me. I had been in entrepreneurship for almost a year before she passed, and so she could see that I was doing it and I was happy and it was working out. But just the identity of what others were thought of me, and
Right.
releasing that, and choosing me, were was super, super important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely resonate with that. I think that we are the generation, right? That is in between the old way, the conventional way of living, which is steeped in a lot of fear, a lot of lack mentality. And there's a lot of gifts there, right? I can recognize that now that I've already jumped and made that journey from, corporate life into entrepreneurship, which is not an easy thing. And I'm sure that you'll attest to there are days where we're like, what the hell did I do? That stability
Yes,
that I did have, how am I going to bring that back? How am I going to again tap into this strength and create a new belief system, a new identity that's really going to allow me to be successful. As an entrepreneur, there's a lot of value in that ancestry and in that conventional way of thinking, but we are kind of that in between that old way and now the new way, which is really like it's all about the freedom and it's all about, like I'm the boss of myself. And I feel like I don't know what that statistic is, but I just feel it. I see it in the work that I do, that more and more individuals are graduating from college and just believing in themselves so much that they don't even give it a second thought. The first thought is, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to bring
yes,
my magic to the world, and that's my identity. Yeah.
they're fearless. They're so fearless.
They are. They are. And, talking about beliefs, and you alluded to this a little bit, but I'm imagining that along your journey, you recognized, these beliefs that I have, or, that were given to me, that I was raised with, whether it's from my parents, my grandparents, my school teachers, even my college professors, um, they supported me in allowing me to become, that small percentage of African American women who became, CPAs and CFPs and all of that, to what are the new beliefs that you actually had to create in order to be successful with this transition? What do you think those are?
Several. I had to there's a lot of no, because I had to do a lot of undoing. And
Undoing.
that's what that's what I realized. I've personally been through just other traumas in my life that, quite frankly, entrepreneurship like it was a shining light. Oh, if you haven't dealt with that,
Wow.
you have to deal with it now for sure. And so a lot of the beliefs around with me were just unworthiness and
Hmm.
not feeling like I deserve to have a life that not only is prosperous but that I actually enjoy. I think another
Right.
belief is it has to be hard. I
Mm.
was a single mom. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was a single mom. So when I graduated high school, I had a daughter to take care of.
Yeah.
And so going throughout college and all those things, it was hard. And it was just my life. And so I didn't think about it. I just did it. And
Right.
so in entrepreneurship, it's like, well, that's what my brain thought. It was like it has to be hard. And is it challenging? For sure. Entrepreneurship has its its ebbs and flows. But overall, I feel amazing here. But for whatever reason, my body would just not allow it to be easy. And so
Yeah.
I've made things a lot more challenging for myself. And so really working on that belief that it has to be hard
Right.
has been huge for me.
And giving yourself space too. I know we'll get into, because in this podcast, we talk sometimes about astrology, about human design, about how to achieve flow and the different tools, that I call spiritual technology, to help entrepreneurs and small business owners succeed and carve out that time for themselves to really renew themselves and work from the inside out. Um, I'm curious as to, aside from the tremendous amount of stress that you were feeling, and you had some visible signs, the loss of hair, the loss of weight, what were some of the other signs that you were experiencing, whether they were mental, emotional, that were a big clue for you that you had to make a change, whether it was entrepreneurship or not, a change needed to be made in your life to achieve more flow?
I was an absentee parent. I think
Mm.
that stands out the most when I look
Oh,
back at it. Because
yeah.
I wasn't a present mom. Like I would be physically present,
Hmm.
but not but mentally I wasn't there. And so with my oldest daughter, I missed out on a lot of her life because I was functioning, but
Right.
wasn't present. And so I think that was a major sign for sure. And then I also think staying in a very unhealthy relationship because it was
Mm.
comfortable. And
Gotcha.
I was like, I cannot handle too much discomfort right now. I'm like if I lose that part, I really crumble. And so I stayed in a relationship a lot longer than I needed to because that was a crutch for me.
Right.
So yeah,
Wow.
it shows up in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and if we're not aware and listening
Yeah.
to the little voice in our head that's kind of always guiding us, right? I call it our higher self. What ends up happening is it all comes crumbling down in a fashion that we don't want it to, right?
Yes.
Whether it's the loss of money, the loss of a home, the loss of a relationship in a very traumatic way that pulls the rug, out from underneath our feet. Do you feel that you were able to catch it in time before chaos ensued?
I career wise, yes, I would say for sure. I was able to exit before I had a heart attack or
Yes, thank
really,
God. Yes.
really, but really had like some severe medical condition. And so I'm grateful for that. On the relationship side, that went on way longer than it than it should have for sure. But I'm grateful that health wise
Yeah.
it worked. Yeah.
Amazing. So take me through the before and after. How long have you been in business now as an entrepreneur?
Almost 18 months. So I left full time October of 2021. So yes, I'm still hanging in there.
Woohoo! That's amazing. Yeah, and now that we've connected and we've done some work together, I just love watching you, seeing what you're up to, and really celebrating what you're doing, right? Because it's in the things that we show up and do in the small ways every single day to not give up on our dream, to not give up on that fierce decision to really make this dream come true for you and release that life that wasn't serving you and wasn't serving your daughters as well. So what does entrepreneurship look and feel like for you today? And how is it different from that 9 to 5 or nine to 12, journey?
Yeah, it varies. I'm in a season in my business where I'm actually in a transition season where I am looking to even dive deeper into my passion in serving women.
Yeah.
And so now it's requiring me to do a lot of internal work in
Okay.
addition to working with my clients. And so on a daily basis, after meet my client obligations, I'm really zeroing in on what fills my cup and
Mm.
what I need, because I know when I'm pouring from a full cup, like my clients feel it, my children feel it, I feel it. And so that's been the main focus in business these days. But then what's different is the structure. In entrepreneurship, you really have to create your own structure. In the 9 to 5, you know your task, and you have your assigned hours. In entrepreneurship, really identifying what works for you and understanding that, okay, maybe 9 to 5, that's what you had to do before, but when are you most productive? And so for me,
Right.
making sure I get my tasks done in the morning, that's when I'm most
Yep.
productive. The afternoon, I'm done for.
Yep.
And so really, like, it's almost rediscovering yourself, because I
Yeah.
think when you're in your 9 to 5, you have to do what you're told. In entrepreneurship, you really get to create what you want.
Yes.
And that's been a tough pill for me to swallow, because I'm like, "Really? Are you sure?" But I get to make the decision, like, is it working for me? And truly taking the time to actually figure out what is working for me.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the entrepreneurial journey for me as well. And I mean, even though I'm 2 years in, for a really long time, I was still operating as an employee, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah.
Still operating in that manner, and then probably only the last 6 months, I've really given myself the permission
Yeah.
to do it my way and figure out what my way is.
I love that. I love that so much. I almost feel like, what it sounds like there is two things. You're still battling and putting on a new identity to that belief of it's got to be hard,
Yeah,
right? And it's got to be hard feeds that little animal that we call 9 to 5, where I have to literally be slaving away at something from the moment I get to work until 5 p.m. and then I can clock out and hopefully be joyful at that point.
right.
And enjoy my life and tap into my passions. And it's such a struggle for so many. That belief is so strong. And I remember that I struggled with that too. When I left, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually own my time now. And I started getting back into the pattern of, if I don't do it this way, I'm not going to be successful. Right.
Yes,
And where I have found that the magic pill is truly is in what you said, which is, what do I want? And having that be the core, you know, and it takes a lot of reflection. It takes a lot of, you know, asking that question in many different fashions, coming to an answer, doing something about it, leaving it for a while, and then coming back to it again until we get to that place of so much clarity that we know exactly what we want. And once we really know what we want and the impact that we want to make, the outcomes that we want to see our clients have that fill that bucket for us, that fulfillment bucket, we get to now put the structure around it. Right.
yes,
Yeah. And
yes,
that's been a journey for me. That with human design, there's a lot of um, really critical information that can give us. And I know that my journey with human design, it kind of rocked my world when, before I became a consultant in human design, I was just reading about it, tuning into it. And the one thing that really just changed my perspective of how I operated, which I knew intuitively. But again, there was a belief there that said, no, 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 that's not how you operate, Mo. you're going to be you're not going to be successful that way. You got to hustle.
Yeah.
You got to hustle.
Yeah.
And what I know about my type that truly resonated with me was two things. I shouldn't do anything that I know 100% I don't have the energy to do at that moment in time. So really understanding where my energy is at and managing that energy. Number two, if I'm not super excited to do it, not the right time to do it. And number three, and most importantly, is I'm here to respond to life. And responding means anything. You know, if I get an email and I read that email and I get excited and my energy builds, I can do something about that email, right? Whether it's to respond to someone or it gave me an idea, I can literally like stop what I'm doing and work on that idea. It will manifest into something. But if my gut tells me, no, this is not the time to do it. This is not for you. This opportunity is not for you. I better listen. Because if I
Yeah.
allow my mind to tell me, oh no, you have to do this because you need the money, you know, whatever, exactly,
Yeah.
then it's not too long before I recognize and I prove to myself that my gut was right. My gut was always right. And so I'm a manifesting generator. You're a projector, and your daughters are also projectors. What have you learned about yourself as a projector, and how has that influenced how you operate today as an entrepreneur?
I am still working on that. I feel like I'm a projector in a generator world,
Yeah.
and I was in public accounting working 60, 70 hours a week. And so the deconditioning that I'm having to go through
Yeah.
has been wild. I struggle with accepting it, quite frankly.
Right. Right.
I know intuitively I should wait for the invitation,
Yeah.
and that sometimes is a struggle for me because
You're a worker
I'm
bee.
quick. I'm a fixer. And it's just like, yep, I heard something. I've got to be the solution. And so, if I'm being honest, it has been a real struggle. Now, what I
Yeah.
will say is in the moments where I actually follow the recommendations of a projector,
Yeah.
it worked. Like I
Right.
remember, I was like, you just need a break. And so I finally allowed myself to go to the beach and I was just relaxing. And then next thing I know, I got a chirp that I had a 4-figure contract be paid. So
Well,
this really
okay.
does work. Right. Or, if I'm just showing up in my essence and then someone sees me, they're like, oh,
Yes.
and reaches out and I'm like, oh, this actually does work when I allow it. So when I allow myself to get out of my own way,
Yeah.
it feels right being a projector. With my girls, I actually want to maybe do a reading with all three of us because they're two projectors and both of them are cancers, but they are polar opposite. And so managing it, I'm like, wait, you're like, I understand that like especially with
Yeah.
my oldest because she sleeps a lot and it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. But I'm like, wait, she's a projector. She
She's a
really,
projector. She's building her energy. Yeah.
yeah. And so I keep that in mind now, so that has helped me not go in there, get up and get out and do some work. And so
Yes.
that has helped me just having that awareness for sure.
Yeah, and that's hard sometimes because when we look at our charts, especially human design, and we say, okay, we're all projectors, but we're so different. We're both cancers, but we're so different. There's it's really the language is in the nuances, right? And every single person is a unique imprint, just like a snowflake that we look at through the microscope. There are no two snowflakes that are the same, right? Same with us as human beings. And I remember a long time ago, I've practiced and I'm certified in face reading. It's not something that I do as a consult, right? Like I don't do those as just simply consultant anymore. I kind of mix it in with whoever I'm working with because there's so much power there. But when we look at twins and we look at their faces, identical twins, when you look really closely, there are
Yeah.
nuances that make them different, right? And everything on our face means something. It corresponds with an emotion, with a personality trait, with a lesson that we're here to learn. And so with your daughters, it's really going to be in the nuances, right? That we
Mhm.
find. And with you as well. Like I remember when we chatted, you're a Virgo, sun sign Virgo, right? You're here to work. You're here to serve. And it's an earth sign. Earth signs love to work and to create and to like you said, generate. Earth signs are here to generate. But your energy body needs space. Not all Virgos have that, but you do, right? So um your chakras are very open, which means that you're pulling in energy constantly from the world, that if you don't create some boundaries that are even that are simple, um that's where the overwhelm is going to, come into play. And what it does for a projector is it shuts off the wisdom that you're here to share, right? Because
Yeah.
projectors are here to receive information, create that wisdom, and then go out and share it, with others, and be those sages in the world. And so yeah, it's about finding that balance. But you alluded to that earlier in saying, um, that you're recognizing when you're in those moments of that previous belief, and allowing yourself just um, a break, whether it's the beach, whether it's a nap, whether it's sitting outside under a tree and taking a deep breath. A lot of times, we think that we have to make big shifts and changes, but it's really little things that give us that space to feel more like ourselves, and to just access more energy to be
Yeah.
successful, in what you're doing. So let's jump into the business, because I really want to know, and I'm sure all the women out there who are entrepreneurs, who are thinking about being entrepreneurs and are so scared, especially because of their finances. And I know that this is the number one reason why people don't jump into entrepreneurship. And um and or number and or number two, it's the thing that ruins it for them, where
Yeah.
they're not able to sustain their new business because they don't have the solid financial backing or footing. So tell us about your magic. How do you work? What do you bring to the table for others? Why do they need you?
Yes. So I start with the vision. I think I'd say I'm a little woo woo for an
Yep.
accountant. And so it's really like, what's your vision? Because I feel like a lot of times, if you're not anchored in your vision, when the money is looking a little funny, then you may retreat, or you feel like it's all or nothing, as
Mm,
opposed to being able to look at what's working, how can we pivot? And so really making sure you're anchoring into the vision. And then how I work with my clients is, let's see where you're at and where you want to go. And then I find the missing pieces. And
okay.
so I love puzzles. And so that's what it's like for me. It's like, you're telling me your vision is X, and currently you're at Z. How do we get from X to Z? And
Okay.
so me figuring out and supporting you, and because it needs to my clients need to have buy-in. But how do we get there in a holistic way that really serves you, so that you can show up and operate in your full power? And so I find the missing pieces to just bring it all
Gotcha.
together.
And what are some of those
Yeah.
things, like practically? Like what are you finding that these individuals either need to learn or put into place from a structure perspective to become, to have that financial liberation? What are we looking at?
The first step is knowing where your money is going. I think that's
Okay.
probably the biggest thing that I see. A lot of times you feel like you're making too much money, or you're not making enough, but you don't actually know. And so
Mm,
actually taking the time to look and see, where's your money going on a monthly basis. And so sometimes that can be a little, I think that's something that people avoid. And so really taking the time to sit and go through your bank statements, your credit card statements, and know
right.
exactly where every penny went. I recommend clients do that for like 2 months to see where your money actually goes. So that's the first step, is you actually know where the money is going. as entrepreneurs, it's super important to have some sort of bookkeeping system. And
Okay.
so QuickBooks is helpful. And I think that's something most people recognize. But there's also an app called Wave, which is free. And that allows you to connect your bank accounts, your credit card statement. So you can have it in one spot and then see where the money is going. So you can actually, again, know where the money is going and where it needs to go. So
Okay.
and having some sort of budget to know, just personal wise, what do you actually need to survive? And so I like to call that's like your freedom number. What do you need to survive? And not just any old survive like you're eating noodles,
Right.
but like
Thank
like
you
pay
for
for, you know
saying
what I
that.
mean? Yeah. So because and that's the other way. I'm not a financial advisor professional that's like, Dave Ramsey, just deprive yourself.
Right.
We're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that you're going to just scrimp and save and all these things, miss out on all these opportunities for for 5 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's not how I operate. So I don't allow
No,
my
and if we
clients to
haven't
operate
learned
that
that
way.
lesson after the pandemic, I don't know what to tell people. Like we really we don't know that we have tomorrow. So
Right.
we gotta be in the present. We have to do what is going to bring us joy and allow us to feel successful right now.
Right now. And
Yeah.
that's how I operate. Like how do we make both happen?
Right.
And so I think, having that big picture, but then also having the tools to get there. So those are two that stand out to me the most. And then the other one is money mindset. I think that's probably, you look to do the tactical stuff, all strategies work and all that. But if your mindset is out of whack, that could be a hindrance. I know for myself, I am someone that money mindset was huge to me. I was used to a
Right.
certain amount of money every single month, and when the months that it didn't come, I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
Even though I had savings, I had credit cards that I had access
Right.
to, I had retirement accounts, I had all the things that were in place that should I needed it, I had access to, but I was still freaking out, and it really stopped me and caused me to freeze or make
Yeah.
investments that I didn't need to make because of that scarcity. And so, really taking time to understand what's your money mindset. Are there any money blocks that you really need to deal with? It's imperative, because when things are going great, usually you don't notice it.
Right.
It's when things start, not going the way you think they should go, when you start to revert back to maybe some negative behaviors that's not going to serve you for the long term. And so really exploring that in advance, or even now, if that's something you've never touched on, just to see is something there.
Absolutely. I mean, the mindset is so critical in so many ways. And I mean, I remember going through that myself, uh, going from a six-figure life to, okay, I'm betting on myself. I got to make this happen. And I remember those moments where I was deathly afraid of looking at my numbers. I avoided it like the plague. And then, I had to look in the mirror because what I do is I teach leadership, right? And at the core of leadership is personal responsibility. And
Yeah.
we need that personal responsibility to actually make transformational changes in our life. And
Yes.
it allows us to get our power back, right? When we're able to have that information, without the information, without me looking at my numbers every month as a business owner, even day to day, like, what's happening, what am I catching that I don't know? We don't have power, we don't have the information we need to actually attain that vision that you're talking about. I can only imagine the level of peace is um, that stems from this work with your clients. Is that something that you see? What do you see from them? I'm imagining peace as part of it.
Yeah, and like relief. Because
Mm,
I work with a lot of high achieving women where
yeah,
typically you're the only one in the circle and you're the go-to person for everything. Something goes wrong or someone needs advice, you're the go-to person. But then in this area of money, and a lot of times it's either they know something's missing, but they just don't know what, or some is the avoiding piece. But
right.
there is a sense of peace and relief that they found a safe space where now they can lay all their cards out without judgment and now get support,
Yeah.
because usually they're the one providing all the support. And to actually now be able to be supported and then get resolution that they haven't had to figure it out, like it just it's so empowering to them because like, man, finally, I have support. I don't have to figure this out. I didn't know what I was doing, but now I do. And so yeah, it's peace, it's empowerment.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's that. I got excited talking about it because I love it because I just remember not wanting to get up on a Monday morning and going to
Right.
the office, like, just
Yeah.
being stressed and all the things, but me feeling like I have to. And I don't even in business, I don't want women, especially women, we carry enough in this world,
We
feeling
do.
like you have to do something. You have to.
Yeah.
What if you get to do something
Right.
that you genuinely enjoy? And so to be able to support women do that, is everything because I was supported. Like, I
Yes.
believe in coaching, I believe in getting support because we can't figure first of all, we're not meant to figure out everything on our own,
Right.
but when you
Exactly.
actually have someone shouldering some of that weight, it's changed my life, and so now to be able to change others, I'm incredibly blessed.
Absolutely. And I think women, I think it's changing now. I definitely see it changing. But, for women, it's always about I need to figure it out on my own.
Yes,
I need to have all the answers. I need to be the strongest. I can't show my weakness, especially in the world we live in where a lot of times we're competing for jobs. We're, trying to prove that we're worthy and that we're smart
yeah,
enough. And a lot of that is changing today. And it's so nice to see that empowerment and that belief of I'm worth it. I'm worth it and I'm
yeah.
gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for what I want. Um, are most of your clients still in the workforce planning to become entrepreneurs, or are you getting them on the other side once they've made the leap already?
So I have a mix. I have a tax advisory firm, and that's primarily entrepreneurs. But then with my coaching consulting side, it's a lot of women who are wanting to make the transition. And
Hmm.
so I usually once we work together about 2 months, they've made a pretty solid plan or they're out of the corporate job. And for me, whatever's gonna make them happy, that's my main goal. And for some of my clients, they're like, I just don't want this job. I wanna be at a job where I'm actually being paid what I'm worth. Like, I remember working with one client, she got, like, a 40% pay increase.
Wow. That's awesome.
40%. And she had been on this job where they questioned her authority. She'd been there for 8 years, but she still felt that they were questioning her, they would undermine her, they wouldn't quite listen to her word, they didn't respect her, honestly. And she was staying there and being underpaid. And so we worked together and she realized she doesn't want to be an entrepreneur,
Right.
but she wanted that job was no longer serving her. And so we were able to work together and get her a 40% pay increase. But it just with women like that is don't stay where you're not happy, where
Yeah.
you're not finding enjoyment. Especially the women I work with, they are seasoned professionals. They've been in the industry for usually almost a decade and they know their stuff. They're
Yeah.
smart, they're hardworking, they're true assets to their company. But usually they don't feel that way and
Right.
they aren't treated that way either. And in that situation, I'm just leave. Let's figure out a plan to get out. Sorry, Monique, I forgot your question. That gets me so
No, that's
riled up.
okay. I mean, that, what that spurred in me is this, this understanding that so many incredible high achieving women and men get stuck. They get stuck
Yes,
in where
yes,
they are with what people believe of them, the ceilings that are being placed over them. And it's really difficult to move from that stuck place. And I'm just thinking about the services you offer, how they are valuable to really anybody on the journey. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You may want to be in corporate and walk that corporate ladder and just get to the top of that corporate ladder. That's also a great place if you're in the right company with the right people. But also,
yes,
if you're able, to your point, to step into that place where you know your voice,
yes,
you get back
yes,
your voice, you get back your worth, and you go ask for what you deserve. And sometimes that alone could get you out of that stuck place, give you the energy and the resources that you need to stay on that path and then begin to thrive and excel again. So, because what I know as, being a coach now for 20 plus years is that when we're stuck, everything is affected. Our health is affected.
Yes, everything.
Our energy is affected. Our relationships are affected. Our finances are affected. So it doesn't matter if you are making seven figures. There are people who are so stuck and not able to get out of it that they're wasting their money. They're
Yes.
spending their money. They're losing their money. They're losing their wealth because of this unhappiness and lack of fulfillment. And it's because they're just not in that space of awareness to be able
Yes.
to, take that first step, and kind of, rein it back in. So the work that you do, the transformations you help people make, I find are super valuable for anybody on that journey who is stuck, who is, wanting to create a new vision for their life and for their career, and wants to make sure that they do it in a way that supports their growth, not having to close the doors a few years later. Yeah,
Exactly. It's about having that foundation, because when you have that,
absolutely.
it just makes it easier when things aren't going the way you look. You're like, wait a minute, but I've planned for this. I've accounted for this. I have a backup plan. I'm all about having a backup plan. And I think the other thing, I think sometimes when I'm working with clients, they feel like it has to be all or nothing. It's so
Right.
often when you're looking to transition into full-time entrepreneurship, the thought is, well, what if I have to go back and get a job? Okay, maybe,
Yeah, it's
but
okay.
find something that you can enjoy.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to go back and do what you were doing.
Right.
Because a lot of times you're burnt out from that career, and so a
Yeah,
lot of times my clients are, "Well, I don't want to have to go back there," and no one says you had to. There are
exactly.
options. But when you have that awareness, but to your point, when you're stuck, you don't see all the opportunities and options. You
Yeah.
are just so tunnel vision that you're like, oh, this is the only way. And that's just not true.
Right. Yeah. It goes back to creating a new belief. I don't, in order for me to be successful, it doesn't mean that it has to look this way. It could look a
Yes,
completely new and different way. And I just have to create that new belief and start feeding that.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, so much to talk about. I want to go back into a little bit of your story because it's such a great story. Um, did you begin to make the transition financially for yourself before you took the leap? Or did you take the leap and then, oh shit, sorry to say that, but you had that oh shit moment where you were like, oh God, I didn't really create that foundation to help me get started as an entrepreneur. Like, what did it look like for you, and what was the success for you as a single mom going through this?
Yes, so I planned. So I
Okay.
started the planning process about a year in advance. I knew
Okay.
in 2020, and so that in 2020 I decided, I wrote my resignation letter, I had my date, it was done. And then I was like, okay, how much money do I need to feel comfortable to leave my 9 to 5? And I set my target. I wanted at least 6 months of expenses saved, and I wanted all my credit card debt paid off. I wanted my student loan paid off, and so that was the target. And so for that year, I worked towards it. And
Okay.
so I was like, so once I had my savings, and I was able, at that time my expenses were, minimal. I had saved
Okay.
about $24,000
Wow.
to cover the six months. All my debts were paid off. So I was going into it debt free, and I felt great about that. I was like, I got this. I'm
Yes.
good. But it was definitely a planning process. And then also during that process, I also went, and while I was working, that's when I applied for any loans that I wanted to do, because I knew that, okay, a W-2 looks better. It's usually easier to get funding when you have a W-2. It just is.
Yeah.
And so anything I wanted to apply for, that's when I applied for it, just to get in front of it. So I wanted to make sure that should anything happen, that I had available credit if I needed to use it.
Right.
I had the savings, and then I had the retirement account, and so that was my process, just so I could feel really comfortable.
Yeah, to me, it's like risk analysis, right? So you in your mind had already identified what the risks were, and you created the contingencies, the financial contingencies, so that you could take a deep breath and just start this journey, on the right footing. That's
Yes.
powerful. That's really powerful, because I think a lot of times what happens is, again, going back to the individuals who are so stuck, so unhappy, so unhealthy, they just want to get out now, and they're in such an urgent, desperate place that they make that leap, and then a month later they're like, oh God, I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah.
How am I going to bring in the revenue that I need to pay my bills, to meet that freedom number, right? And not have to go into debt, and et cetera, et cetera. So it really is the best way for those of you out there, who want to be entrepreneurs, really thinking about taking that leap. And maybe you're struggling right now, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because you're just not in a good place. And so I think both of us here are saying, give yourself a little bit of grace, give yourself a little bit of space to actually plan this out, so that
Yeah.
I think just the process of doing it in and of itself makes us feel better. It starts to get us unstuck when we're able to plan with that vision, and really look at and see where we are, and how can I get that financial footing so I could leave, write that letter with excitement and peace, that
Yes.
resignation letter. Yeah.
For sure. And if you are that stuck, making sure you're talking to someone and not keeping it
Yes.
all to yourself. And so I'm a big component of therapy, but also I
Yeah.
love coaching, life coaching, because they get you in action. Because it's
That's
one
right.
thing to talk about what you've been through and trauma, and I think that's important, but it's a whole nother thing to have some accountability. Because
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing in entrepreneurship. If you don't have someone on you, it's on you, unless you have an assistant or some sort of accountability group or something. So having a support system,
Yeah.
start getting that now. I think when I look back and on my journey, that's what I wish I would have done more of, is leaning into support,
Yeah.
and again working on my mindset, because even though I had that nest egg and that cushion, because when I was just starting out and the business that I had the vision for, the money wasn't coming in like I wanted it to, I was still freaking out.
Right.
And as I mentioned, I made investments that I didn't need to make. I should have, for me, putting that money in myself, learning about what my beliefs are, what some of my stories were, that would have better served me, because then that would have allowed me to get past this unworthiness stuff and things like that. And so don't, if for those listening, please don't be on this journey by yourself.
Yeah.
Being a lone wolf, this is entrepreneurship, is not the time for that. Do that later.
Yeah.
But in entrepreneurship, getting the right community with people who are on the right path, who can support you, so that way you're building yourself up. It makes it, in addition to the financial foundation, making sure your internal, who you are, that foundation is as solid as you can be, is magical.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent advice. And so what are your personal strategies when you have those, bad days as an entrepreneur?
I have breath work. And so breath work probably has changed. I mean, a lot of things have changed my life, but breath work has really helped
Mm.
me. It helps me with clarity. It helps me with getting some of those feelings that are stuck. That's been incredible. Breath work. So I've created like a daily routine.
Love
And
it.
so on the days that I don't have my daily routine, I can feel it. And
Yes.
so for me, I established my daily routine. Breath work, I journal, I meditate. Those are like my non-negotiables.
Okay.
I will say, when I'm working out, I love it. Working out is probably the first thing to go when I'm a little down. So when I can get back into the rhythm of working out, that really helps me. And then I just have a core group of women who we are, entrepreneurs, and so we're on the voice note. I'm a voice note junkie now because of
Yes.
these ladies. And so being able to just express it and get it out, and even if sometimes they can give me some feedback, or other
Yes.
times it's me just actually saying it,
Yeah.
that I can start to shift. And of course I have I'm a coach and I have a coach. And so on
Exactly.
that, on rough
Coaches need
days,
coaches.
yeah. And so on rough days, I also leverage my coaches, and then I have other little tools. Is really trying to figure out what does my body need, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just listening.
Yeah.
So, do you need to rest? Okay, let's sit down.
Yes.
And so yeah,
A lot of giving yourself permission. A lot of giving yourself permission, I think, is really important on this journey of entrepreneurship, and definitely accountability through community. And that has changed my journey, completely. Having, a Rolodex of people that I can reach out to, to scream, to cry, to share, to get validation, to remind me I'm not crazy, to remind me of my mission. All of
yes,
those things are really important, and it is part of the journey, I think, in particular for women, because this is becoming, we're seeing more and more women entrepreneurs, get out there and just put their gifts out into the world. I also want to, add that knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are. I remember when I first started this journey, again, this was a belief. I have to do it on myself. I got to do it on myself. I have to learn how to do everything in my business, including the finance and accounting. And, if anybody is listening out there who knows me really well, they will tell you that's not my strength. My strength is not finance and accounting. So, after the first year of suffering through it on my own, that was my first hire. And
yes,
and I will today just not go without spending my money on my accountant. That's my biggest accountability partner in my business. That keeps me on track, and it also takes a huge weight off my shoulders, so I can spend my
yes.
time doing, my magic. Where my magic is, that's where we want to, spend our time. So, oh my gosh, time has flown. I want to ask you three more questions really quickly. Okay, so the first one is, what would you say that your daughters would say about you, seeing you go through this journey? Like what do you believe they would say about mom today?
Wow, she's so much calmer now. I wow, she's not as high strung anymore. She doesn't yell as much. I think
Okay.
that's what they would say.
Wow, I love it. But that's so real. I've shared this before. God knows when. I've done a million videos in my life. But when my daughter was 5 years old, and, I had the habit of sitting on the couch, watching TV, multitasking with my laptop, not really paying attention to the TV, not really paying attention to what I was doing, not really listening to anybody. And she was talking to me, and I'm like, yep, yep, got it. Uh-huh, I hear you. And then she literally took her hands and put them on my face and put her face right here. And she said, Mommy, you're not listening to me.
Mm,
And
yeah,
that just changed everything. Like, it just changed. I needed that. And so those little messages that our kids can reflect back to us, project back to us, are so powerful,
yes,
and can really show us where the work still needs to be done, right? For
for sure.
productivity, for self-care, for balance, and making sure that we're spending time on our big buckets, the things that are most important to us in our life. So thank you for sharing that. And then I guess the last question is, and I'm this is the one question I'm asking everybody this year on the podcast, because astrologically we've had a really big shift in the world, and this shift is affecting the global world, but it's also affecting each and every one of us uniquely. And that's the movement of the planet Pluto, which is the planet of transformation, death, and
Mm,
rebirth, um, into the house of Aquarius, which is revolution, which is change, which is uniqueness, which is community and solidarity. And so I'm labeling this our personal revolution. And so
ooh,
this transit is going to be in an area of our life for 20 years. It's a long time. And so
mm.
my question to you, in thinking of the next 20 years, where do you think the work of your personal revolution will be?
think I'll be doubling down on exactly where I'm at. I think it'll be supporting women in being more liberated, but
Okay.
and doing it with confidence. I really see
Mm,
that. I see myself speaking more, so
okay.
it's my message is getting to more women to be empowered to know that you do not have to stay stuck.
Right.
You can go after your dreams. Like you know, that's what I'm about. So yeah, I think that's what it will be. It will just be supporting more women,
Right.
and my voice will be louder and bolder, and I'll be showing up more. But it's starting. Oh my
I
word.
love it.
It
It
is
should. It
definitely
should be
personal.
starting.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's
yeah. Feel
actually
it. I feel it.
perfect because looking at your chart, this is happening for you in the ninth house, which is the house of speaking up, communicating, sharing your wisdom at the highest levels, educating, teaching, traveling, and to boot, you have the planet that rules all of that in that aspect of your chart, in that house. So I feel that for you. I love that. And so thank you for sharing that. And then lastly, I want you to, is there anything coming up that you want to share? I think you have a retreat coming up.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to tell
And
us a little bit about that and how all the women out there can get a hold of you, how they can find you.
For sure, and it's that's so interesting about my reading because I have the retreat in Tulum, and it's called Liberated. Liberated Retreat 2024, and
Okay.
it really is about serving. First of all, we're going to be in a mansion on the beach in Tulum,
Wow.
but really releasing the blocks of that relationship, job, business, whatever's been holding you back, and shifting that to step into your full power. And then I'm about community. And so it doesn't stop at the 3-day retreat. You're with me for 6 more weeks after that. So that way you don't have this powerful experience and then it's gone. Bye bye. You
Right.
so there's that. And then also I am part of 2 anthology books that are coming out this year. And so I'm speaking more and sharing my
Yes.
wisdom with the world. And so one is being released on April 5th and the other one will be in June. So that's coming up as well. But yeah, I'm super excited about the women that I will support at Liberated. And so you can find me at Alexandria Chanel _ CPA on Instagram
Okay.
and Alexandria Davis CPA on LinkedIn. And
Okay.
then and then the information I'm sure will be posted
Yep.
in the show notes and all that. But Monique, this has been so amazing. This went by really too fast. I
I
could talk to
know.
you all day.
I say that with all of my guests. In fact, when I started these fierce conversations, they were only 30 minutes and I had to extend them. There was just not
No
enough
way.
time.
No. No.
So, so I'm so grateful to you, Alex. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your fierce story and giving, everyone out there just that kick of inspiration that they'll need to really just believe in themselves and do, step into their dreams, really, and do it with
Yeah.
a solid financial footing. So I'm grateful to you. And thank you, everybody who will be joining and listening. Make sure to connect with Alex and to connect with me on Instagram. I'm at I am Monique Renee. And we'll see you all soon. Take care.